Many people regard a mature, close canopy forest as the most pristine condition and the ideal to conserve wildlife and promote biodiversity. This is absolutely true for some species, because there are always winners and losers when managing for a particular environmental condition. However, what if I told you a greater number of plant and animal species, particularly species of conservation concern, benefit from the woodland condition that does not have a contiguous canopy? So, what is a woodland? A woodland retains 30 to 80% canopy cover and has substantial sunlight penetration through an open canopy, allowing high productivity at the ground level. The herbaceous layer is core to creating and maintaining a true woodland condition. If there is extensive herbaceous cover under sparse canopy or no canopy, the community would be called a savanna or prairie, respectively. The key to maintaining the woodland condition is disturbance, particularly frequent fire. Frequent low-intensity fire consumes the litter layer, limits mid-story development by top-killing hardwood sprouts, and fosters herbaceous cover. The low-intensity fire allows upper canopy trees to persist, maintaining intermediate light conditions. In the southeastern U.S., fire shifts the composition of forests and woodlands to favor oaks, hickories, longleaf pine, and shortleaf pine, depending on the ecoregion and hydrology. These tree species co-evolved with fire and have adaptations to outcompete moisture-loving mesic hardwoods in woodlands. In much of the eastern U.S., woodlands and savannas historically dominated the landscape. In fact, the western Piedmont of North Carolina was described by an explorer in 1718 as the Grand Savanna. Additionally, longleaf pine woodlands once dominated the lower Piedmont, coastal plain, and sandhills ecoregions. This historic landscape was greatly influenced by indigenous peoples who used fire to manipulate the environment, sometimes burning twice a year. Plants and animals co-evolved with disturbances like frequent fire, and many wildlife depend on it. Repeated prescribed burning is necessary to maintain a woodland. Otherwise, the open forest condition is ephemeral, and woody stems move into the midstory and shade understory vegetation. Canopy closure and stem exclusion in the midstory can happen in as soon as 10 years following the absence of fire. This unique woodland condition features elements benefiting canopy-dwelling animals as well as species associated with herbaceous vegetation, shrubs, and tree sprouts, because vegetation biomass is concentrated in two layers, the understory and the canopy. The shrubs, tree sprouts, and grasses and forbs in the understory provide food and cover for ground-dwelling wildlife year-round, and the canopy harbors canopy-dwelling animals and often produces mast beneficial to ground-dwelling animals. This is Picture Creek Diabase Barrens, located in Granville County, North Carolina. By introducing fire, land managers have restored woodland on this property. It now hosts the largest known population of the federally threatened coneflower, Echinacea laevigata, and provides habitat for wildlife with high conservation value. The woodlands at Picture Creek retain habitat elements for species associated with herbaceous vegetation and patches of woody understory. You can see mature, fire-tolerant oaks and hickories in the overstory, which supports canopy-dwelling and cavity-nesting bird species such as red-headed woodpecker, scarlet tanager, great-crested flycatcher, yellow-throated vireo, and white-breasted nuthatch. A sparse midstory is advantageous to sallying foragers, including eastern wood pewees, great-crested flycatchers, eastern phoebes, and red-headed woodpeckers. Additionally, bats benefit from reduced midstory in a woodland. Sparse midstory creates open areas with low clutter that provides corridors for flight and foraging that don't impede echolocation. Foliage roosting bats can still roost in their remaining tree cover. The patches of herbaceous and woody plants in the understory provide nesting cover and abundant food for shrubland birds, including eastern towhees, indigo buntings, and golden-winged warblers, especially when canopy cover is relatively low. Wild turkey and northern bobwhite also use the herbaceous cover in woodlands for brood rearing because it provides an umbrella of overhead cover for young. A woodland provides lots of food. Food is concentrated close to the ground, where it is accessible to terrestrial animals. The herbaceous and woody plants in the understory provide forage for white-tailed deer and cottontail rabbits, particularly following recent fire. Fire promotes forbs and can also briefly cause a spike in nutritional value of herbaceous forage and woody browse. White-tailed deer also use this dense understory vegetation as fawning cover and for thermal protection. The increased light in an open woodland promotes increased fruit production on fruiting shrubs, particularly in combination with fire. There often is an abundance of softmass from species like blackberries, blueberries, and sumac. In oak hickory woodlands, the dominant canopy species both produce hardmast in the form of acorns and hickory nuts, respectively. In longleaf pine communities, the seeds from longleaf pines are eaten by fox squirrels, cotton mice, wild turkey, and northern bobwhite. Also, oak woodlands in particular will have a greater abundance and diversity of caterpillars because oaks host over 900 species of Lepidoptera larvae, more than any other native tree. Caterpillars are a great food source for birds and their nestlings. Take a look at the lack of flowers in this shaded forest understory. Now compare that to what is growing in late fall at Picture Creek Diabase Barrens. Pollinator diversity benefits immensely in a woodland system. With increased light penetrating the open canopy and sparse midstory, there is a greater abundance and diversity of flowering plants. This means increased nectar and pollen resources for bees, butterflies, wasps, and flies. There are a large number of species of conservation concern that require the woodland community type, including the federally threatened red-cockaded woodpecker, which requires mature longleaf pine woodlands, eastern whippoorwill, red-headed woodpecker, golden-winged warbler, and northern bobwhite. These species are declining due to loss of open forest conditions, largely resulting from the exclusion of fire from the landscape. I am advocating for woodlands because managing and restoring woodlands will support a wide variety of species not common on the landscape dominated by close canopy forest and intensive agricultural production. Woodlands are a rare community type that played an integral role in shaping the evolutionary history of so many wildlife species because of their historic prominence. Woodlands will disappear on the landscape without intervention, using management practices such as commercial thinning and other forms of forest stand improvement, combined with frequent prescribed burning. With appropriate management, we can convert closed canopy forests like this to something like this.